All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory to YAHAWAH YAHWEH. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to you, Akim, out there laboring and doing this work in truth and sincerity. And pretty much, I'm gonna just get into this whole Kanye West thing, as far as the statement that he made concerning our oppression and captivity to this day, that slavery being a choice. And pretty much, the scriptures already bear witness of pretty much our captivity being prophesied, thousands of years before it happened. And the Most High, when He declares these things, His word doesn't go out void. So therefore, you know, pretty much whatever He calls into being is going to take place. Regardless if man thinks that they have the free will to make a different choice, because all things, work according to the will of the Heavenly Father and His Son. So without further ado, I'm gonna play this news clip.
Now, I don't know if he wanted this type of attention.
He's at the center of a hashtag. Kanye West made what might have been his most controversial statement to date during an interview with TMZ.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
But historians reject this argument. Here's why. Kanye's idea is rooted in misconceptions about slaves being complacent. It also ignores the history of slave resistance.
The enslaved African resisted persistently in a number of different ways.
That's another way. What does the scriptures go back to? According to Deuteronomy 28, it said that pretty much thou shalt have no might in thy hands. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna grab that precept real quick, just to demonstrate and show that pretty much the Most High's word doesn't go out void. All right. Let's see. This is Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord, Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And all these curses, a curse, which is the opposite of blessing, did come upon us, And the Lord put these curses upon us, for breaking his law, statutes, and commandments, and for our disobedience. So, the same, Most High is the one that pretty much put these curses upon us. He's the only one who can take these curses off of us as a people. So that's one way to know that, pretty much, as far as having a choice in the matter, we didn't have a choice. Says, let me see if I can go down and find that precept I was talking about earlier. Hold up. All right, here it is. This is Deuteronomy 28, verse 32. It says, Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall no might, and there shall no might in thine hand. Okay, so let me see if I can pull that up on the blue letter. And let's take a look at that word might, and let's see if we had might in our hands to be able to pretty much change the course of our captivity or deliver ourselves out of captivity. All right. All right. And the Hebrew word there for is Allah or al, shortened form of ayal, which means God, God-like one, mighty men, men of rank, mighty heroes. And when you read about the slave rebellions, there were men that rose up like, Nat Turner, the Gullah Wars, and things of that nature that took place, in the course of our captivity, when we was in hardcore slavery that rose up. But did it succeed in liberating our people from the hands of our enemies, Esau being at the top? No, it didn't. It says angels, God, false God, demons, imaginations, God, the one true God, YAHAWAH. Hey, as a matter of fact, the Most High, pretty much said he would hide his face from us, during the time of our calamity. All right. It says mighty things in nature, strength or power. All right. So pretty much, now I'm pretty sure it's gonna take me back to the beginning of this video, but pretty much going back to the statement that, there was several slave rebellions that happened that took place where Jake resisted, but it still didn't lift up any of the curses, which was pretty much, contrary to the narrative of it being a choice,
I'm always on the go, I'm always traveling, so I take my Surface laptop with me a lot. It's thin and super lightweight, plus the battery life is so long that I sometimes almost forget to bring my charger.
There is Kanye West. Now, I don't know if he wanted this type of attention.
He's at the center of a hashtag. Kanye West made what might have been during an interview with TMZ.
When you hear about slavery for 400 years, for 400 years, that sounds like a choice.
But historians reject this argument. Here's why. Kanye's idea is rooted in misconceptions about slaves being complacent. It also ignores the history of slave resistance.
The enslaved African resisted persistently in a number, whether not working as hard as they could, to something as widespread as a slave revolt. And so the biggest misunderstanding of slavery is this dominant idea during slavery and after slavery of the docile enslaved African.
And while he's tried to portray his latest comment as revolutionary free thought,
Do you feel that I'm being free and I'm thinking free?
far from being new or revolutionary, the idea that slaves were complicit in keeping up with slavery is age-old.
The ideas that he is sharing are actually quite old. There was a very prominent post-slavery theory that black people were not resisting enslavement because they recognized that enslavement was better for them. That really lasted even among scholars who wrote about slavery well into the 1940s and 1950s.
By repeating the narrative that enslaved people were docile, Kanye works to blame the oppressed to them. It puts all the responsibility on the individual and ignores systemic inequality. Today, the conservative ideology of individualism and pull yourself up by the bootstraps follows a similar pattern.
People want to call it systemic racism. No, it wasn't. What they were doing to me is what I wasn't doing.
You do not have to sit around and wait for somebody else to do things for you.
According to this body of thought, racial disparities exist and persist because black people haven't taken personal responsibility for their lives, because there's something wrong with them, because they're enslaved to the welfare state, and they refuse to resist in the way they refuse to resist to the slaveholder.
This thinking allows Kanye to claim his own success, but by using his platform to share historically inaccurate information, he makes people believe that things in the past would have played out differently had they been there. It glosses over the real violence and suffering of slavery, and it muddles accountability.
All right, so pretty much, and who's accountable for slavery? The so-called white man, the Hamites, and the Ishmaelites that sold us in the captivity. But ultimately, it was the Most High that pretty much caused it to happen to us, you know, that pretty much allowed it, you know. All right. As a matter of fact, let me bring this one up. It says Deuteronomy 31:17. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, are not these evils come upon us, because our power is not among us. Right, so, you know, pretty much when we went into captivity, and, you know, pretty much, you know, Most High hid his face from us. You know, he didn't deliver us out of those atrocities. You know, our people had to suffer that oppression. You know, for one, to fulfill prophecy, and also, you know, for our disobedience. You know, so the Most High being our power, you know, being our might, who goeth before us. You know, as far as when any of our enemies come against us, he didn't go before us when our enemies came against us. You know, when our enemies was gathering us up, you know, for captivity to be sold and distributed, you know, throughout the four corners of the earth. You know, that didn't happen. You know. All right. This is Deuteronomy 32:39. It says, "See now that I, even I, am He, and there is no God besides me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever." All right. So, you know, the point is, the Most High is the one who kills. He's the one who makes alive. He's the one who wounds, and he's the one who heals. And neither is there any that can deliver out of his hand. So, you know, pretty much once the Most High called this to being and called, you know, our captivity to you know, come upon us, You know, there was, for one, there was no might that we could have in our hands to overturn it. You know, as far as it, being of our own choice. We was made to suffer for it. And I'll just get one last precept to close out. All right, this is Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. All right, and our captivity, being one of them, but also that just goes and declares that, according to prophecy, that as far as everything that came to pass, that for one, the scriptures, bear witness, that we are the children of the Most High, and that's all that, according to, the promises that the Most High made to our forefathers, that we also going to be set up above these nations as well, So we had to go through our suffering, our tribulation, before we could be magnified, which is, also going to come into being manifest, in the times to come. So with that, I hope this was edifying to, YAHAWAH out there. And with that, I say Shalom.